Hello, and if the off chance that this video gets anywhere else other than just in the Speed Boost server, my name is JSPT. I am a coach for the aforementioned Team Speed Boost and Team Speed Boost Academy, and I'm just going to be going quickly through a PowerPoint that I've literally just made called Double Shield Fundamentals, which, as it says, goes through the fundamentals of Double Shield. Big shout out to Coach Thor as well, who does a great textbook, great PowerPoint on Overwatch macro fundamentals, which I've borrowed a couple things from. Not obviously pirated all of it, but there'll be a link to that hopefully in the video description. It's pinned in our Speed Boost channel, and also there's a slide featured at the end as well where he clearly describes the win conditions. So we'll get started with slide 1. So why is this comp so good? I'm going to try to do a bit of both, do a bit of almost just like a presentation. So I'll be reading off a PowerPoint and providing some personal detail as well. I need to fucking fucking hell. Brilliant already. Okay, so why this comp is so good is all the points here. It's insanely hard to beat with positional advantage. The way that the maps are fundamentally designed in Overwatch, the ability to take position is absolutely insane and it's abusable. This is what people discovered through Goats. Goats taught us how good the payload was, and in counter to that, how good positions was. Positions obviously beat the idea that they had to stack payload. Goats was all about stacking on that payload on the objective and forcing your enemy to rotate onto you and taking the advantage fight on the payload. Whereas Double Shield is the opposite. It's about setting up advantageous positions to sort of abuse the fact there is an objective, to punish rotations onto said objective or onto you as a team. Low cost ultimates is very, very high effect. Again, tempo is a massive thing now in Overwatch. It's about using ults first, using low ults, low cost ults, and using them early. So all of the ultimates in Double Shield tend to be low cost, but they tend to be high impact, but normally with a high skill ceiling. But when comboed with each other, they can clean up fights very, very quickly. When the right heroes are good, it can beat both Brawl and Dive. So those right heroes are Zen, they are Baptiste, they are Brigitte, they are Torbjorn, they are a lot of heroes in this. Basically every hero in this comp, in particular the 3 core heroes. Insane adaptability, yeah. So you've got the option to, with 3 core pieces, you've got the option to plug and play basically anything that you want, and that's great because it allows versatility and it allows you to sort of play your own team style of Double Shield. Yes, core fundamentals. This is the essence of team rotations and macro knowledge, as it says on the slide. We saw this in the Overwatch League. We saw teams like the London Spitfire who weren't the best individually mechanically. They didn't have the most experience. But what they did have was good coaching, good discipline, and good macro knowledge and good rotations. And they took maps and they took fights off better teams because of it. And Double Shield is all about that. If you know the game and you're coordinated and you're in sync as a team, then you can absolutely abuse Double Shield. But like Goats, it's hard to play, but if you play it well, it's absolutely busted as fuck. So we talked about those 3 core heroes, and here they are. So what's in this comp? The 3 core heroes that you should see basically in every Double Shield comp ever, and these are the ones that you never ever change off. They are your 2 tanks, your Orisa and your Sigma, and your Baptiste. So why in particular are these 3 absolutely busted together? Well, we saw the start of it. We saw with Orisa and May, Orisa and Baptiste. We saw them sort of with the Clockwork Vendetta comp, and those guys in particular, Mini-Me and Engineer and Monk Mutter as well on the supports as well, sort of, and Zaitor unlocking that. I believe Zaitor was in the original roster, but unlocking that fucking hell, unlocking that power of spam essentially. And obviously it's been heavily nerfed now, but these heroes still have such good synergy that I feel like if it gets to that point, we may be looking at something that needs another nerf. It needs a heavy nerf and needs a complete rework. Because in this core synergy, like I see these 3 and they have such good synergy. Like they have almost as good synergy as the entire Goats crew. And those heroes fundamentally worked so well together that you could nerf them, and the sum of their parts was still so much better at the higher level that they needed to bring in 222. And now because of 222, Double Shield is just busted as fuck. So, as we said, why these core 3? Baptiste, Slamp, and Windows allow good teams to take further positions, reducing the risk of it. This comp, as he said, is all about positional advantage. And as I said in brackets there, it allows you to be greedy. The more greedy you are with this composition, the better you can get pulls, the earlier ults you can get, the more value out of your ultimates you can get. If you take that forward, or that greedy sightline, it allows you to better punish the enemy when they rotate onto you. And obviously, like it's a lot easier, and you get less punished for being greedy with Baptiste's Lamp and Baptiste's Windows. or Amplification Matrix, or his Immortality Field, to use their correct names. Orisa is the best tank at the game at holding a stable position. Often on double shield, you want to start out primarily in one spot and sort of develop and grow and sort of shift throughout that map. Orisa is the anchor of your entire composition. You move with forwards and backwards to the sides with your Orisa, and you play around your Orisa. You play on the off angles around her. And she's very, very good at just being able to hold a position because of the Fortify, because of the shield, and obviously Holt is very, very good as well. As he said, it's great at splitting, delaying, and repositioning the enemy, which are all things that you can abuse on this double shield spam playstyle. Sigmund Shield, again, why is he here? Because it supports the greedy playstyle even further. It can provide additional protection to Orisa so she can move forward, or it can provide this off-angle. And the personal sustain helps a DPS to off-angle. And the reason that off-angle is so important is because, again, it just allows more spam. It's easy for teams to kite and to hide against one fire, one line, one sort of spray of spam. But if you have an off-angle, it's the war on two fronts. It's sort of like basic FPS knowledge that if you can off angle and crossfire, then it allows more damage effectively to go through into your team. Ideally, you have sort of the less spam. You have sort of the ones that want to shield break that do less damage, spam from main, and your high impact burst damage going in from the side. As I said, reliable personal sustain allows him to off-angle. All three of these have great ultimates on low cost that don't require much traditional combo. So we talked about traditional combos, talked about EMP Coal, Shatter Bomb, Grav Dragon, and Nano Blade. These, okay, this fight, we're just going to use these two ultimates and win. These three ultimates are all insane at just being able to open a fight and then sort of allow for the cleanup to come through. And in particular, Window and Bongo are fantastic for ult autonomy. Bongo is one of the best ultimates in the game because of the mass damage boost it gives to your team, and also while providing a damage boost, it allows your team to accelerate their ultimates as well. If you're down on a fight and you can dry fight it basically just with Bongo, and you can win a neutral fight just with Bongo, you're then going to be massively ahead in ult autonomy compared to the enemy team. Because Bongo, by killing them, is going to allow you to massively accelerate your ultimate charge. And as I said, then that allows you to be more greedy and the cycle and so forth. Just general ult rotation kind of stuff. So we talked about those three core. Now what do we have? We have rotationary pieces, and every character on this screen, and maybe some more, are going to be ones that you can rotate into this comp. But for now, we'll keep it simple. These are the ones that I like in this composition. In the mirror, in Brawl, in Dive, there's a slide that sort of explains this a bit further next. But as we see here, we have Ashe, Genji, Zenyatta, Brig, Echo Mercy, Pharah, Torbjorn, and Hanzo. So why all of these? Zen against Brawl or Spam is absolutely necessary, because in that mirror you're going to need the damage and you're going to need the Discord to be able to, once you isolate a target, to pull them away or above a shield, then you need to burst that target down. Against Brawl, it's exactly the same. You need the shield break and you need the Discord. If you can Discord and break a Reinhardt shield before he gets into hammer range, you kill him absolutely every time. Brig, always, always, always against Dive. Brig on her own, at one time completely countered Dive just by her existing. Now she's obviously a lot weaker, but she still does a very, very good job at mitigating Dive basically on her own because of her peel and because of Rally, because of the armor packs. Torb and Pharah also great against Dive, particularly in this elo, which is sort of mid-diamond for the one I'm touching that. As I said, if this video gets out anywhere else, it can be it can be punished at the higher levels, particularly because of the impact of squishy heroes and stuff like this. But against Dive, Torb and Pharah can be very good because often teams can struggle to go on a Dive target, and if you play Torb Pharah, your best Dive target, because obviously you're going to be playing Mercy with your Pharah, the best Dive target will then be a Baptiste, and the Baptiste is going to be getting, well, Lamp, Passive Burst, he's going to be sat behind likely 2 shields, he's going to have the Torb turret, and he's going to have Pharah just raining death. And also, while you're doing that, whilst the enemy tanks are diving the Baptiste that they absolutely have to kill, your Pharmacy can go on their backline and look to take trades and look to win the fight that way. Mercy, as we said, against Spam on defense because of the ability to damage boost, or Brawl. Mercy against Dive is not that good because you're going to be stationary, so you don't have many options for the Mercy to GA it around to. Mercy's a bit more niche. I prefer Zen because of the idea of Discord. Mercy, you are damage boosting one person, whereas Zen, you are Discord orbing the person that you want to be shooting. So with good target focus, you should always be playing the Zen because it's essentially you're giving more damage. You're giving damage boost to everyone if you Discord that target, because it's always more consistent to essentially boost damage against the person you're shooting as opposed to just one person. Because if that one person is missing their shots, then the damage boost can still go over to the rest of your team. And in particular, the way it works with Orisa pull and stuff like that. But Mercy can be done on the defense because it allows you to accelerate an ultimate really quickly if you really, really need to. That can be, most of the time, a Tourbillon ult, a Dragon Strike, a Bob, a Duplicate, a Molten Carpet or a Molten Core, something like that. Echo Zen, always against Pharmacy. Sigma, very bad against Pharmacy. It's notoriously kind of dog shit against Pharah. Echo Zen Baptiste can also help as well. You can play Mercy. You can play Mercy Zen as well if you really need to. But most of the time, Baptiste Zen should be good enough because of Baptiste's ability to poke as well. A Discord Orb, Focus Fire, and then the Echo Execute will do a very good job at taking down Pharmacy comps. Obviously, you cannot sustain against Pharmacy on double shield. It's very hard. You need to actually kill her or force her out. But forcing her out is often sort of just delaying time, and when you're trying to rotate into a Pharmacy, then it's very bad. Hanzo Ash, weak against dive, weakest against dive. They both still have mobility, which is why they're played in this comp. They offer a little bit of mobility, but mostly because of the high damage and burst that they give. That little bit of extra mobility makes the comp slightly better against bad dive teams, but good dive teams should still be able to catch you. The coach run and the leap and the wall climb don't mean too much. Mostly that's just for the ability to reposition quickly. But in a dive versus spam, you probably don't want to be playing them. You just want to be bunkering down on point as double shield and forcing them to dive you and just living through it. And the longer the fight goes on, the more likely you are to win that. As you said, it's also acceptable to swap to Soldier, Kree, May, or Reaper against hard dive. And this is obviously Pharmacy less dive. If you ever play Bastion, you can go Sombra to pair against it. This is very niche. This is basically exclusively on payload maps. This is Havana, this is Junkertown, and this is Dorado. These are basically the only ones where you want to run Bastion. And the reason you run Sombra is because most teams, again, will need cooldowns and they will need rotation to take away. And whilst you have basically all the damage you need coming from main, your Sombra can safely farm on the off angle behind. And a value, the biggest pitfall for Sombra is that when she hacks, the team can't follow up on it. But every hack on Sombra is just a little bit more time where the enemy team potentially cannot push into your Bastion. And that's obviously very effective, as the Bastion's just going to keep fucking peppering damage or continuously moving through the map and pressuring that objective. Genji, absolutely never ever against Brawl or against Brig Dive. Other than that, I actually think Genji is okay. We saw this when he was buffed, but I think he's still in a decent place right now because Dragon Blade, or the Weep Stick as I've referred to it, is very good at helping force cooldowns, but also clean up cooldowns as well. If you can Bongo Blade, if you can Flux and then Blade after, if you can Valk Blade, it's good ways at just forcing cooldowns out and cleaning up. Most of the time when I talk about forcing cooldowns, it's against Brawl and it's against Spam. In Dive, well, Genji's just going to be good because you can go and Blade their backline, because their backline will obviously in Dive be very squishy and lacking in peel. Brig doesn't help that, but as we said, you don't want to be playing Genji against Brig Dive. Or against Brawl, really, because they will just out-sustain you. So, we're moving on to the ultimates ranked based on strength. This is every ultimate that I've got in the core and the rotationary heroes. Ultimate number 1 is Bongo, 100% absolutely the best ultimate in the composition. Flux, great against basically everything. It's great against spam to force cooldowns, it's great against dive to kite and pull tanks away, and it's great against Brawl to chunk HP, to force cooldowns, to create space, create time, everything. Window, again, very good, punishing rotations. Falls off a little bit against dive. However, you can still effectively poke people out on dive as well. Rally, really good. Basically just beats dive on its own. And can also help you Brawl a little bit as well. If you're playing spam versus Brawl and you commit an ult early and you find a window to clean up, if you can pop Rally, you can essentially out-Brawl a comp that is unable to mirror that Rally, that Brawl composition, because of the amount of armor and just the absolute fucking warlord that Rally and Brig really is. Copy, Duplicate, this is Echo's ultimate. very, very good. This is highs it up because it's absolutely busted against all three of them because personal survivability, and also in spam it's absolutely insane. It's pure ability to force cooldowns. You have 3 cooldowns from your Echo, you're going to have 3 cooldowns, 2 cooldowns maybe, and an ultimate come out from the duplicate, the one that you've actually copied, and then when she comes out of the copy, you're going to have those 3 cooldowns that you originally sunk back out again. So Echo is absolutely crazy in this composition. One of the things that the comp struggles at is cleaning up and being able to finish the fight, and Echo is perfect with that. The murder beam, the execute, the focusing laser, I believe it's called, just beautiful with that. And on top of it as well, like so much spam with the sticky bombs and the primary fires as well. The Molten Carpet, yep, this is up here because it's the idea of a defensive ultimate. It's good against Brawl because, again, you pull them and they get trapped. You can use Coombe to zone, you can use it to buy time, you can use it to actually punish a rotation. If a Brawl run on you, then you can just Coombe on the floor. Or Molten, I should stop saying Coombe. You can Torb Ultimate, you can Molten Claw on the floor to punish their aggression onto you. Against Dive, again, you can use it to zone and you can use it to cover and you can use it to peel. And against Spam, it's not as good. But it can be good if you're cheeky on the side. You can force Bongo really, really early with it. Not Bongo, Lamp. You can force Immortality Field really early with it as well. So it has its usage. It essentially just punishes a solid position, or so Molten Core punishes a set area, punishes a set rotation. Once they rotate onto you, once they get onto you, you can Molten Core. Or if they are stuck and unable to move and they are playing they're playing in quite a solitary and quite bunkered down position, Molten Core is going to be great at denying that as well. Obviously Molten Core comes up quite early as well, in general. Weak Stick and Dragon Strike basically do the same job. Dragon Strike a little bit worse. I think it's one of the weaker ultimates, particularly because Polly's a lot weaker now, so Pull Dragon, not really as good. Dragon Strike's biggest effectiveness is just its ability to zone. If you can Dragon Strike between tanks and push them, if you can Dragon Strike their supports to zone their supports off and then push them, if you can do it to put Dragon over your own team when they're diving or when they're brawling, Dragon is sort of just covering it. Sort of does what Molten Core does, but it does it like on a vertical plane as well. So Dragon Strike, the best form of this is for peel and for split. You don't really want to go for kills with Dragon Strike. If they're coming through a choke, yeah, you can do it to punish a rotation, but obviously not the best, but it still has a lot of use, but it's never one that you really want to properly rely on as the core ultimate that you're using to win the fight. It's very, very much clean up and just increasing the likeliness that you win the fight. And Hanzo's not there for his ultimate, he's there for the Storm Arrows, particularly through the window, which are just so deadly. Transcendence, good against Brawl, because Brawl will particularly rely on offensive ultimates and combos to take you out. And if you can successfully Transcendence a EMP, you're going to be balling there. And as well, Transcendence, if you can block Annonades, which you should be able to do with 2 shields, also good against Dive as well. Dive needs to take that sustain away, and it takes that sustain away by getting your supports. And if you can trank, then you shouldn't lose a fight where the enemy team on Dive int onto you and you just trank it. Because you can essentially just kill them, because they can't burst through your Transcendence, it's too much healing. Valkyrie, sort of a mini the same. The damage boost is really good with other ultimates like Blade, and like helping clean up a fight. And it can also be used defensively as well, just to peel. Not primarily good, and it's not strongest when it's used. It's sort of just a mass heal for the team. Its damage is very, very good at helping burn down that target as well. Bongo, it can emulate a Bongo in that sense, Valkyrie, and Valkyrie's going to come up very quickly as well. But it also, like, on the main, as I said, the main purpose is that damage boost, but it can also provide a little bit of peel, and sometimes you just need your Mercy to live a little longer in the fight. And the reason you have Mercy is because you've probably got like a Pharah or an Echo, and Res is also very, very good as well. Valkyrie's going to ensure that Res comes off a little bit easier. It's going to make that less of a risk. Rocket Barrage and Robert or Bob. Barrage, very, very low impact ultimate. You don't really use Barrage a lot on Pharah. It's sort of the weakest. You can use it to pull Barrage and I guess punish a late rotation, but good teams will just use Diva against it. They will shield it. They will kill you as you're barraging. So if you can't cover it, then it's very, very difficult. So Barrage is low value, but against like bad teams or against against tight rotations and against points where your fire can pop up and barrage, it can be very, very strong. Sometimes it can win the fight on its own, but it's never something that, again, you're really, really looking to win a fight off. Bob is the same. Bob is very, very good, actually, at helping sort of take the space that your Orisa lost because she died. It's good at contesting point when you want to buy a few more seconds for your Orisa or for your Sigma to rotate, and it can also be good just for cleaning up and forcing ultimates. Sometimes a well-placed Bob will force just enough cooldowns for you to win the fight. But as I said, Ashe, again, Bob, not really the best ultimate. You sort of just use that man advantage. You use Bob in double shield for that 1000 HP pool, really, because good teams will just burst Bob instantly, but you can abuse them and kill them while they're bursting that Bob. So, moving on to general ult plan. Generally, you can win a fight if you go early with one of your top 3 ultimates, if you have them up. Ult with the most valuable Q, or the most value ultimate that you have, and then look to clean up with one of the less valuable ultimates. You never, ever, ever use Bongo and Window in the same fight, particularly at the start. Window Bongo is kind of just bad for your ult economy. You should always look to try and avoid it. If you have both, you should always look to Bongo first, and this is a priority list. Like, if you have Bongo, you should open with that, and then you can sort of choose from this list if you need to, but you can try and go, like, once you've used that first ultimate, you can try and go down as far as possible. Okay, so, like, we've used Bongo, and you'll use Flux if you don't have anything else. You use Window if you have nothing else below it. You use Rally if you have nothing else below it. You'll use Copy if you have nothing else below it, and you'll sort of just go from there. These ultimates, Barrage and Bob, I sort of keep in a tier of their own. You can sort of just use these whenever. Sometimes you can use these in a 3 ultimate fight. But in particular, like, if I were to tier it, then you've sort of got Bongo, Flux, Window are the ones that you really want to open with. And then you've got Rally, Copy, Molten Core, Weep Stick to clean up. Trank is your defensive ultimate. And then Dragon Strike, Valk, Barrage, and Robert you can kind of just use whenever. You can use Reactionary. Valk, also kind of your defensive ultimate. You use it defensively, but not in the same way Trent does to counter ultimates. Valk you can use to sort of just buff up your team and ensure that cleanup from that first primary, that big ultimate, goes up a lot cleaner. You can also do something like Valk Weeb Stick as well. So if you damage boost the Genji, it's almost like effectively nanoing in. Because you get that same damage boost. Yeah, Flux is great to use first or second in a fight. You can go Window and then Flux. You could go Bongo and then Flux if you absolutely needed to win the fight. If it was an overtime fight and you had every ult, you'd start with Bongo, then you'd go Flux, and then you'd commit everything else. But opening with Flux first and then going something is very, very good as well. But it's also good to use second if you get it late in the fight as well, and don't feel bad about using that, because Flux can be a great opener, it can also be a great finisher. But often than not, because it forces so many ultimates, just to stop people from getting caught in the Flux, it's always good to use first, and it's always good to use early. As I've said, we've had a couple of discussions this in our own voice, where people are looking to be very, very greedy. You never ever play to force cooldowns, and then you force cooldowns with early ultimates. We said, oh, can we force Lamp? Can we force stuff like this? And these comms need more development. It's never okay, or it's never optimal to just say, can we force this? Like, can we force trance so then I can blade? You need to say, how do we force trance? And often than not, the easiest way is to use the Genji ult to force the trance, and then disengage, and once you've got that out, then go in with something else. And some fights, as I said, they have an almost unbeatable win con. The enemy team have a composition, and this is what you need to identify. When they have a comp or an ult combo that you just can't beat, they have EMP, Nanoblade, Grav, Shatter Bomb, stuff like that. Ultimates that you're like, okay, the minute these come out, we just lose to them. So when you identify that they have those, you can commit your low value ults first, and then look to use something like a Bongo or a Flux to clean up if they don't come out, or if you think you can win the fight before those ultimates. But often not, like, you have to realize that when they're close and when they have those ultimates. But for overall general, you just look at the ults you have. If you've memorized this ranked based on strength, you go with the first one, you go with the highest one, and then you look to go with one of the lower ones to clean up. General positioning guide. So positioning is the core abused mechanic in this comp. Like Goats abuse sustain and point control, like Dive abused mobility and burst damage, positioning is what and spam and damage is what double shield abuses. Always play around corners and around cover. 99% for everyone. The 1% of the time you may need an Orisa in main. So this is something like King's Row first, where you may need to put your Orisa onto the point. as your team sort of circle around the hotel windows and provide spam as they rush and inevitably rush onto the Orisa. It's all on your Orisa this comp. Orisa should decide whether to take space and aggressive shield in the same way Winston calls your hard engages. You do not engage without calls from your tanks, without the knowledge, without the consent, without the confirmation of your tanks. Your tanks decide totally how you play this comp, and this is why I like having vocal tanks. And when you're trialing in a double shield meta, always look for comms and macro knowledge on tank. It's the most important thing. Mechanics come second, because at the end of the day, they can be grinded if they're really that much of an issue. The hardest part on Orisa is knowing when to engage shield and initiate cleanup. If you go too early, you risk losing to their ultimates, and you risk not cleaning up properly and taking a brawl on spam, which you never ever want to do, because you will just lose every time. And if you go too late, then there may be time for them to flip the fight, or you might not get the most optimal time, or you might lose to respawns, etc. In this elo, as we said, sort of low mid diamond, fights take longer, so that's more of a poke phase, that's what that's called. This is good for spam. This is so good for spam, as you can delay for primary win conditions, either mid fight or before fight if you absolutely need to. So if you're getting into a fight where you're close to ultimates but not quite any, as I said, it's always good. So if you're coming up on a Flux or a Bongo, particularly both those tank ultimates, you should say, can we just try go here with Torb ultimate to buy a little bit of time, buy that extra second or two, so you're or window, for example, so that you can accelerate your tank ult, and then you go with your tank ult to clean up. So it's just all about playing around the ultimates, and ult tracking is very important as well, because if you have clean ult economy, you have clean positioning, you have clean rotations, you're going to demolish teams on double shield. Here we go, finally, win conditions. And this is taken straight from Thor's macro guide here. So the weaknesses for spam include mobility, sustain, and close range. Not very mobile, that's why you have to set up always before the fight, so after the fight, don't take the best position available. On the corners, ahead, forward, in front of the payload. On the high ground, for example. Sustain, as it said, it doesn't sustain very well, but you have hard cover and you have double shield, and you hope that you put out so much damage that your lack of sustain doesn't really matter. As I said, close range. If their tanks manage to get onto you with brawl, they can destroy you. Its strengths are consistent range damage. As I said, that's really good for punishing rotational comps. Map control, very busted and very easy to abuse. Long range support as well. You've got a lot of heals. You've got orb. You've got lamp. You've got the bat spam, you've got, shields, etc. So the win condition, here we go, is attack from long range, consistent damage, forces, resources, or picks. Use map control to try and attack from multiple angles. This is about the off angles and push enemies in open space or rotations. Play slow, fundamentally. The longer you stay in the poke phase, the better for spam. Both in non-mirror matches, both dive and brawl want to look to initiate the fight as fast as possible. Do you want spam? Don't want to do that. You want to play back, you want to play slowly, and you want to drag the poke phase out as long as possible. You can beat spam, you can beat dive if you force their tank armor, if you force them to jump away. If you can strip Winston of his armor, you can strip D.Va, you can get D.Va low before they jump into you, and then you can use that sustain, that lamp, that whip shot, because you're going to be on Brigitte or Brigitte against that comp to sort of just help delay that fight and win that. And that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a 28-minute video, actually. Jesus Christ, so this was a bit longer than I expected, but hopefully this helps. Hopefully you guys managed to watch this. My Twitter is, I believe it's, I don't know what it's, JacePT_. My Discord is Jace2034. As I said, I'm the coach for Team Speed Boost. I'm also currently looking for opportunities as a colour caster as well. But this was Double Shield Fundamentals. Hope you guys enjoyed and got a lot of use out of this. Feel free to comment in below, and I'll try and answer any questions or at me in the Discord. Hope this helps. I did put this together myself just quickly. So yeah, I hope to see you guys watch this, learn from this, and improve next stream. Alright, I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.